Hi, I'm Cristina Cordova. I'm the COO at Linear. We're a purpose-built tool for planning and building products.
Christina, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, really nice to meet you.
I gotta say, I love Linear. It's a revelation, and I feel like it's like the North Star for like so many people in terms of user experience. And it's been an absolute delight. How have you enjoyed leading the team and kind of
Yeah.
seeing the excitement around your product?
Yeah. I mean, the team when I got there was just like so incredibly impressive already. And I think in a lot of ways it just has pushed me to want to raise my own bar. Working around a lot of really fantastic people. So yeah, in a lot of ways I feel like I've done like a lot of the best work of my career in
Yeah.
working with these people. So yeah, our team's really fantastic. I've really enjoyed it. And we're starting to do many more things, and I think also be like more experimental
Yeah.
as a company as well, which is really fun.
Yeah, I'm
So
curious, leading up to like today, what have been some of your most exciting like wins over the last year at Linear?
yeah, I would say 2025 has been a big year for us. I mean, we've had a lot of growth in the company historically. So, we grew faster in 2024 than we grew in 2023, and we're growing faster in 2025 than we grew in 2024. So that acceleration in the business is really
Yeah.
exciting. But I think in particular this year, we're seeing many, many more people sign up for Linear and just become aware of like what we're doing than in previous years, which has been exciting, the amount of growth that we've seen in the business. I also think a lot of what we're doing this year has been really emphasized by the improvements in LLMs.
Mm-hmm.
When we first started developing with LLMs, 2.5 years ago, it was kind of like, oh, like this is good, maybe like 50% of the time. But like for a company that really cares about like quality,
Yeah.
and like good user experience, that's just not enough to be shippable,
Right.
which is kind of unfortunate. And so, we did like what most people did, which was like try to get in 6 months and then try to get in another 6 months and doing that for like multiple models, which has been really fantastic. And now we've actually been able to ship things where, you get to a point and you're like 80 to 90% of the time, this is
Pretty
good.
good. Yeah.
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 And so like this has gone from like not shippable to shippable in 2025
Yeah.
alone, and shipping a lot of products that really kind of take the toil out of building software. Like
Yeah.
nobody loves project management, and I think that's kind of why we decided to build Linear.
There's
Like,
a couple that
you
like
know,
really get into it.
yes. But
But
like
I agree.
ideally you're spending time on like product strategy, and you're spending your time with your
Yes.
customers and trying to understand what they want and to build that in a way that's like strategically valuable for your business. And so for us, I think what's really important is that we're able to take the things that you don't like about building
Mm-hmm.
products
Mm-hmm.
out of the equation by automating a lot of that stuff away.
Yeah.
So I think for a lot of people who are building with Linear, it's become a more like exciting value
Mm-hmm.
proposition. We've also been integrating a ton with like AI agents. So, you can go into Linear and choose between an agent for cursor, like
Yeah.
actual coding agents, for example, agents that help you write a PRD, agents that help you do QA.
Wild.
So thinking about like the full product development lifecycle and what are the things that you can actually say, hey, I would rather a tool do this for me,
Mm-hmm.
and why isn't that tool in the context of how I plan and build my products?
Yeah. I'm really curious, for a company like Linear that focuses so much on like the user experience and
Mhm.
like designing for like users and productivity, a lot of that has to be very deterministic. You want to know that you did a thing and now it like moves through that like pipeline in a predictable way. But
Yeah.
you mentioned like LLMs have been kind of like unpredictable in a lot of ways, and they get better, but there's still that like piece of it. How do you consider adding these possibly non-deterministic like features like compared to that like heavily like guarded user experience? Like, do you
Yeah.
think about them in a different way,
Yeah.
or is it all kind of, if it makes sense, we're gonna go with it?
I think if you think about the history of software, it's always kind of started with like, what am I doing manually, or what am I doing
Yeah.
in the old way? And what's like the new way of doing this, right? So, you get into like a self-driving car and like somehow there's like still a wheel in the front seat that's like moving. And you're like, well, this isn't really necessary, right? But like, it makes people feel safe, right? Like you still feel like you're in like the old school thing that's maybe doing a new school thing,
The
right?
ghost driver. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And so I think that it's also true of how we see software for Linear too. And in a lot of ways, I think we're in a mode where, a lot of people have taken these formats of UI that are pretty old school, like a chat interface, right? And said, I'm just going to put this little like chat UI into the right-hand side of my application. And that's how like we're going to use AI, right?
So many chat interfaces just slapped into our product.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, that's not exactly how
Yeah.
it's probably going to end up, right? That's probably how people are taking like baby steps into AI within their products. So we actually, I think because we waited a little bit longer for the models to get better, kind of skipped over that step. And we're like, we're not doing like a chat UI interface within Linear. But instead, we're going down this path of saying, what are the workflows that can be automated so
Mm-hmm.
that you never have to, for example, mark an issue as a bug again? Like we should know that this is a
Yeah.
bug based on the context and the information that's in the issue. If a bug that is being filed is like a duplicate of something that already exists, we should be able to tell you that, right? So that way, if you're like a project manager or product manager or whatever it might be, you're in our product and you don't have to do that stuff manually, right?
Mm-hmm.
And instead you can like go talk to a customer, like, go work with your engineers, right?
Yeah.
Like ideally that's like how you're spending your time.
Yeah.
And so the UI actually feels kind of effortless. Like there, like you don't know
Nice.
that there's like AI behind it in,
Yeah.
for sure. Like we just have like suggestions that come up, right? And then you as the user, you have control, right? Which is what a lot of people want with AI right now.
Yeah.
Like you can see a bunch of suggestions and you can say, yes, 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 I want all these things. Okay, great. I didn't have to like manually triage that. I didn't have to think about like where that product feature should go, who it should be assigned to,
Yeah.
because Linear gave me the information.
Mhm.
So that's kind of what we're shooting for. And then I think once you get to a point where you're like 95% right, then you get into the place where you can say, actually, maybe I don't want to do this at all. Right. And so maybe I don't want to be in the flow. And you can be at a point where you say, I'm just going to let the software do what the software does. And I'm going to be in like hands-free mode
Yeah.
effectively with Linear. And that is like where we're driving towards. So like that's kind of what we're calling like self-driving SaaS, and like the evolution of what we're doing. We're moving from this like very manual place to like, let's automate some things, but you're going to stay in the driver's seat.
Right. Yeah.
And then, eventually you can get in the back seat and not pay attention.
I love that because it's almost like a meta user experience,
Yeah.
right? Where you're actually like helping guide people into that new user experience
Yes.
and that like user experience potential. Like you're kind of like less about like the UI and like how it feels and like understanding things, and more about like, hey, we think that this is the future, but we're gonna let you kind of take it as slow as you
Yeah.
need in order to get there. I love
Yeah.
that. How
Yeah.
have customers responded to that?
I think customers really love it. I think, we've built a lot of trust with customers from just like building a really well-crafted product that's like nicely designed and that you want to be in. And I think that was like the first version of Linear, and a lot of people trust us because of what we built on that front. And then now that we're building more in this direction, people are, noticing that like we're not like slapping AI on things. Like we're trying to do this like very thoughtfully and think about the purpose-built workflows that people who build products have, and where Linear and AI can really automate a lot of those workflows. And so for our customers, I think in a lot of cases they're like, I want to see it. I want to try it. I'm not going to like fully trust it until like I have confidence in it. And then, they're kind of off and running from there. And I think that's the really exciting thing. And I think for enterprise in particular, where you have maybe at a certain company like thousands of engineers, hundreds of product managers and designers, you really start to see the compounding effects of like how much faster your team can move,
Yes.
even more so than startups. So we're actually seeing, at Linear that enterprise companies are picking up agents far more than like early stage companies, which is usually like the opposite of trends, like, that you see in technology, that like enterprise is last to adopt all the new shiny stuff. But I think they're seeing the compounding effects more than anyone else because of their
Yeah.
sheer size.
Yep. And like don't want to get left behind. Like
Yeah,
just like
right. It's a scary world out there.
it
Someone
is.
could like vibe code a competitor tomorrow. And like, what does that mean for us? So I think a lot of companies are really taking this seriously,